team were in there today. And Joe Slippo is preaching in the North region. Tim Blake got sick, so please pray for Tim. I think they had a stomach bug going around or something. So, speaking of the North region, they did actually have a teenager get baptized this morning. Tayshawn, I believe, is the nephew of Nika Hewitt. So, that's really exciting news. I'm sure you'll see the video later on Facebook. But it's just great to be together. I do want to make one announcement. Is the Easter baskets. For those of you who have a child for Amherst's DCF Easter basket, please you need to turn that in by next Sunday. It's due next Sunday, March 20th. So you got to get your baskets together. It's that gift basket for the DCF foster child. Amen? Okay, so next Sunday, bring that in. I know the Leonard family group is already done. So they're setting the pace and the example for us already. All right? Also, last night we had a youth ministry night in West Haven. And the youth ministry night, there was a lot of teens and preteens and parents that came out. It was really packed to the gills. We had kids on the floor. We sang a great song, and we did a lesson. I did a lesson for the parents on social media and spirituality. So we just talked about the phenomenon, how it really is right now part of our culture and how pervasive it is. It's only been in the last 10 years that this social media phenomenon has really creeped into our culture. Okay, and so we had to discuss that, and it was just great. The turnout was great, and the kids, I'm sure, had a great time. The teens have a good time with Tim Adams. Was it Tim?
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right. So we've been doing the Passport book, Passport Land to the Land of Enough, in our church. I don't know if you've done some of the challenges. Last week I did pretty much everything. This week was a little bit different, just because it got busy. But I did do a few of them. One of them was a Facebook or a social media fast, which I did for 3 days. And I got on a little bit yesterday, but I honestly didn't have time. But I was off social media from Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And now I feel better. I feel like alive again all of a sudden, you know? So maybe you guys, I know Melissa Jackson's been off for a couple weeks now. She's doing a whole month, so maybe you can go a whole month without it. All right, another one was 1 plate, 1 cup, and 1 set of silverware for 1 week. I did not get to do this. Hopefully we can do it next week. Absolutely. But we did make a giveaway bag for for a needy person. So we made 3 giveaway bags. We just haven't seen anyone. So hopefully we'll run into someone soon to give it. Did anybody perform a random act of selflessness, a random act of kindness? Anybody do that? Okay, that one's like pay for the person in the line behind you, give someone a card at church, or offer to babysit for free. So I know actually Sarah DuPont did that for Heather and I, so she did that for us. That's really nice. Have a garage sale. I don't think anybody did that. No. Okay, good. I know Heather and I, we did a garage sale last September, so that was really nice, in the rain. And then the last one was tell a family member or friend what you've been learning from this book. So it's just another opportunity to be sharing what God is doing in your life. So today we're going to be learning about week 2, which is conviction, having conviction about the wealth that you have, the wealth that God has given you. And the title is Enough is Enough. And the question for you all here today and for me is enough really enough? Basically asking, am I content with the wealth that God has given me? Am I okay with what God has given me? Or do I feel like I need more? Do I feel like my job isn't satisfactory enough to give me more, so I want more? And maybe that's a legitimate feeling. To pay the bills and get everything, taken care of as far as your ducks in a row. Maybe you don't have, maybe you have enough, but you still want more. Okay? Maybe you have a ton of wealth. You have a nice house, 2 cars, you got a nice family, but you still want more. Okay? Maybe you are just content. You're just, I'm fine with what God has given me. All right, we're going to talk about having conviction in terms of your wealth, your money, and your possessions. And if this lesson doesn't really impact you today, just glean what you can. Amen? And just glean what you can if it doesn't apply to you as much today. But let's be talking about conviction. So conviction is a strong belief. It's a strong belief. You believe in it so strongly that you're going to do something about it. You don't just sit on a purple seat and that's it. That's all you do. No, you do something about it because you believe in it strongly. You believe in it passionately. It's not 0%. You have 0% success in your convictions if you have an attitude of I won't. That's not conviction. I can't isn't conviction. Or I don't know how is not conviction. Or I wish I could help you, but I can't. So that's not conviction. None of these I want to is not conviction. I think I might. That's not conviction. I might do it. I think I can. I can. It's still not conviction. I am is still not conviction. It's not until you say, I did. That's when it's a conviction. That's when the rubber meets the road. That's when you put your money where your mouth is. That's when you no longer talk the talk, but you're actually walking the walk. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah. That's having conviction. And if you have conviction about being generous, that's the question this morning. Do you have a conviction about being generous with your wealth? All right? And I'm not just talking about money. I'm talking about your possessions, like your home. Are you generous with your home? Are you generous with the food that you buy? Are you generous with the clothes that you also purchase? Do you give your old clothes away to people who need it? Are you generous with the technology that you've been given? So like, for example, when teenagers, if you might have an Xbox 360 or an Xbox One or a PS4, are you generous with those video games? Do you invite people over and say, hey, let's go hang out, let's play video games? Or maybe, are you generous with the technology like your phone? Do you use that to help build God's kingdom or advance God's kingdom or encourage people? What do you use your possessions for? You got to think deeply about your wealth because it's not just money. It's everything that you own. You with me, brothers and sisters? Amen. All right, so we're going to talk about real quick, before you understand this whole wealth phenomenon and the things that God has given us, we've got to understand the false gods of the Bible. The first one is Baal. Okay? This was the principal god of the Canaanites. And basically he was a calf riding on the clouds. This is not necessarily Baal. This is just an idol or an image, a statue. But it was an example of Baal. All right? And in 1 Kings 18 there was a showdown between Elijah and Ahab. And they were kind of like, well, because basically the Israelites were kind of like, they didn't really like Elijah. And they were like, well, we kind of want to worship Baal. And Elijah was like, dude, you need to choose who you're going to worship. It's either the Lord your God or Baal. Choose. And then the people were like silent. They were like, we're not going to say anything. All right? And next thing you know, they were like, okay. So Elijah was like, okay, if your God is real, then let's sacrifice a bull. And let's see which God is real. Because if it's real, then fire's going to come down from the sky. And so the Israelites are like, okay, let's do it. So then they start, come on, let's go, Baal. They start calling them, come. They call until noon. And by the time noontime comes, it was from like morning to noon, Elijah was like, where is he? He hasn't even come yet. What's up? He's like mocking him, taunting them. And then next thing you know, Elijah was like, well, you want me to do it? You want me to call on my God? So he does, and the fire comes down and licks everything up, licks up the bull, and basically the Israelites were like, okay, your God is real. Your God is the God of Jacob and Isaac. So basically, Elijah was like, look, my God is the best God there is. And he's real and he's alive. Okay, in Judges 6, Gideon tears down his father's altar of gods. Basically, his father was worshiping the God of Baal. It would be like, let's say Carlos Collado bought a 65-inch TV, right? And next thing you know, he's been watching TV for a month, just sitting on his couch and watching TV for a month. It'd be like little Joshua Collado coming in. You need to stop watching TV, Dad. He takes the TV and he breaks it. Or like, Jesse the third father of Jesse the fourth. It'd be like him playing video games on his PS4 all month long. And Jesse the fourth, the son coming in and saying, "Dad, you need to stop playing video games." And he breaks the video games. Okay? This is how radical Gideon was with his dad. Okay? And this is how radical Gideon was with idols. Alright? And here's another god. Asherah is the kind of the Baal's companion, which is the kind of like the wife. She's the fertility goddess. So they worship Baal and Asherah for the Canaanites. And in 2 Chronicles 31:1, it talks about how Hezekiah cut down the poles. She was basically, they would, carve a tree of this woman into her statue, and then they would Hezekiah came in and just cut down these logs, these Asherah poles. Another one was Dagon, the god of Dagon. This guy is hilarious. This is the Philistine god. And he looked like a merman or a mermaid. But yet he was also a grain god because they wanted him to bless their crops. So the god of Dagon was basically this god that they made a huge statue in 1 Samuel 5. The Philistines captured the Ark of the Covenant. And when they captured the Ark of the Covenant, the Ark of the Covenant is right here on the bottom. And they basically the Ark of the Covenant held the 10 Commandments, the 2 tablets. And so they put that next to the god of Dagon. And then the next morning, they found the god of Dagon statue face down on the ground. And the people were like freaking out. They're like, "Oh, no!" So they picked him up. And then the next day, he's not only not on the ground, his head is gone. And his arms are chopped off. His legs are chopped off, I think. And it just was showing that you don't mess with the Ark of the Covenant. You don't mess with the God of the Bible, the God of Moses. Alright? So that's how powerful God was back then in terms of the false gods around him. Here's another one, Ishtar and Ashtart. I don't know how to pronounce that. Astarti. This was an Assyrian Babylonian god. She was the queen of heaven, or fertility. And all throughout Jeremiah's warning against worshiping this god. This is where it gets. This is where the Israelites, of course, remember when Moses was up on the mountain, right? He was there for a long time, and Aaron, of course, was down with the people, and the people were getting restless. Like, Moses is up there for a long time. Can you please, make us something or do something? And Aaron says, "Okay, give me all your jewelry, give me all your gold." And he starts melting it, and he makes it into a calf. And so that's what the people start worshiping, is this calf, this cow. All right? That's in Exodus 32 and 1 Kings 12. Of course, what happens after that? Moses comes down from the mountain. He sees the people. This is always funny. He sees the people worshiping this calf, and he gets so mad. I think he smashes the tablets, and then he grinds up the tablets, and he forces the people to drink it. Can you imagine that? I'm here grinding the stones, and I'm here going, "You guys need to drink this. You guys are..." I can do that. All right, and then the next one was, this is more intense right here. The Molech god was the god of the Ammonites. He was their principal god, and he was worshipped by sacrificing children to the fire. So they believe that if you want to get closer to Molech, the god of Molech, if you want to have a closer relationship with him or a closer bond to him, you have to sacrifice your children to the fire. And Josiah, it's crazy because this was a crazy time. Josiah was like living in a time where the Bible was non-existent. It had just virtually disappeared. And so I think it was Hilkiah that found the Bible again, or found the word of the Lord. Hilkiah found it, and he brings it to Josiah. Josiah reads the scriptures, and he's like, "What I read here is different from how we're living. This is not good. We're sacrificing kids to Molech, and the word of the Lord is saying not to do that? This is not right." So Josiah gets kicked, and he starts just destroying all the idols for Molech. And he throws it all into the Hinnom Valley in Jeremiah 32, verse 35. And then also along with Molech was Chemosh, or Chemosh. It was the god of the Moabites. Also child sacrifice. This one's crazy because it was actually Solomon, the wisest man in the Bible, who introduced Chemosh to the Israelites. This is where he started getting a lot of concubines and a lot of wives, right? And he started living pretty much away from the Lord. And he introduces Chemosh to the Israelites, and the Israelites it's seeped into their culture. They started sacrificing their children to Chemosh. And that's a little scary, don't you think? Can you imagine that? Sacrificing, little Julian or little Hunter or Devin I just wanted to be closer to God. So here you go. That's sick. It's disgusting. And so that was a time where the Word of God was missing. All right, here's another one. Zeus, we know all that from the Greek. We learned about Greek gods growing up. Zeus was a big one. Barnabas and Paul were preaching the Word in Lystra. And basically the people were so impacted by their preaching that they saw Paul and Barnabas as gods. They named them. They said, well, Barnabas, you're Zeus. And Paul, you're Hermes because you're a messenger. You're the one who's preaching. All right? And Barnabas was just kind of like this kickback kind of guy. All right? So it was just kind of interesting how they saw the disciples, the apostles, as false gods. And then in Jesus' day, you've heard this word, Beelzebub. It actually means Lord of the Flies. Okay? And haven't you seen Lord of the Flies, the movie in the early 80s? That was disturbing, right? It's a disturbing movie. Okay? Basically, this is a god of the Philistines, and in Matthew 12, some of the Pharisees and the religious leaders, they called Jesus Beelzebub. They were calling him a ruler of demons. And Jesus was like, how can you call me that? I drive out demons because I'm God. You can't say that I'm a prince of demons, because if I was a demon, we're working together. We're actually united. We're unified. But because I'm God, I can actually drive this demon out. You're wrong in your interpretation of who I am. In fact, he says it's a sin that cannot be forgiven if you call the spirit in Jesus an evil spirit. Very unforgivable. That's the only unforgivable sin biblically. All right, so why gods? Why are we learning about this? Well, I believe idolatry was rampant throughout the Old Testament. You can see it everywhere. It's rampant all throughout the New Testament. And you can see it in these scriptures. All right, if you look in, you don't have to turn there, but basically in Exodus chapter 20, verse 3 through 6, it says in the commandments, it says, you shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself an image in the form of anything in heaven above, or on the earth beneath, or in the waters below. Even though this was the first two commandments, idol worship was rampant. Okay, in Psalm 135, verse 15 through 18, the idols of the nations are silver and gold, made by human hands. They have mouths, but they cannot speak, eyes, but they cannot see. They have ears, but they can't hear, nor is there breath in their mouths. Those who make them will be like them, and so will all who trust in them. And Isaiah 44, 9 through 20, 45, verse 20, and 46, 7, it says, all who make idols are nothing, and the things they treasure are worthless. Gather together and come, assemble, you fugitives from the nations. Ignorant are those who carry about idols of wood, who pray to gods that cannot save. They lift it to their shoulders and carry it. They set it up in its place, and there it stands. And from that spot it cannot move. Even though someone cries out to these gods, or these idols, it cannot answer back. It cannot save them from their troubles. The Bible is brutal toward idolatry. Okay, imagine that. You have a piece of wood or stone and you're calling to it and talking to it and speaking to it. We look at that and we say, some of us, we look at it and we say, that's foolish. That's silly. What are you doing talking to something that doesn't even talk back to you? All right, and Jeremiah 11 verse 12 says, the towns of Judah and the people of Jerusalem will go and cry out to the gods to whom they burn incense, but they will not help them at all when disaster strikes. All right, it's not going to come back and help you out. And in Jonah 2 verse 8, those who cling to worthless idols turn away from God's love for them. Wow. You start following these idols, he's saying, look, you lose your love for God. You lose your heart for God. That's in the Old Testament. Here's the New Testament. 1 Corinthians 10 verse 14. It says, Paul is saying, therefore, my dear friends, flee from idolatry. And so he's saying, look, fleeing is what? Well, when there's a hurricane coming, what do people do? They flee. I'm out of here. That's what we got to do with idolatry. You got to deal with it radically. You got to shoot on out of there. If there's a fire, you leave. Same thing with idolatry. In 1 John 5 verse 21, it says, "Dear children, keep yourselves from idols." John says it. And then in Acts, it says while Paul was waiting for them in Athens, in Acts 17 verse 16, it talks about how he was walking through Athens, he was waiting for the disciples, and while he was waiting, he sees a bunch of idol worship, just a bunch of statues. And it says that his spirit was provoked. What does that mean, his spirit was provoked? It means that he was upset. He felt, like this is not good. He felt icky. All right? And so when he saw these idols, he got to a point where there was like one that said, "To an unknown God." It's almost like the people in Athens were trying to cover all their bases. Like, well, we got the God of this, we got a God of that. Did we miss anything? Oh, no. Well, let's just do the unknown God one. Just in case we forgot. All right? And that's how ridiculous it was. And I think we need to have the same spirit when it comes to idolatry in America. We got to be like provoked. We need to be like, that's not good. It should upset us when we see idol worship. And then in Deuteronomy 32 verse 17, this is an intense one. Write this one down. It says, "They sacrificed to demons that were not God." This is the English Standard Version. "They sacrificed to demons that were not gods, to gods they had never known, to new gods that had come in recently, whom your fathers have never dreaded." And so what is this saying? What is it saying about idolatry? What is it saying about these false idols? It's saying that these false idols are of demons. It's saying that these false idols are actually demons, that people were worshiping not necessarily statues, they were worshiping demons. They were worshiping this evil spiritual world. Do we have any idolaters in the room? Okay. Hands down. Well, the bold ones raise their hand. Okay? But really, I'm talking about, like, when I say idols, I'm talking specifically statues. Like, do you, any statues hiding in your closets? Okay, good. All right. Does anybody have any Asherah poles that you guys recently put up in the kitchen or something that you've been bowing down to? If you do, talk to me afterwards. We can talk about it. I think Augusto has an axe. We can chop it down. C.S. Lewis wrote the book Chronicles of Narnia. And in the movie or in the book, it talks about this false god named Tash. And it's this huge, like, nasty-looking bird that people worshipped. And in the end, it says when God comes back to appear, it says that Tash will also appear. This bird will also appear. This false god also is revealed. And what it does is the people who are worshiping these false gods all of a sudden see their demon come out, this Tash, and the bird comes out and it eats them up. And I think about maybe, for those people in this world who are worshiping idols, all of a sudden when God comes back, when Jesus comes back, He's going to reveal all the demons too, along with it. And they're going to come up and they're going to be like, I was worshiping that all along? And it's going to come up and it's going to eat them up. I don't know. It made me think about that. We don't want to be idolaters, do we?
No, bro.
Again, if you need to talk to me about a statue, we can talk later. But there is one idol that I left off. And it's the American idol, which is called Mammon. Let's go to Luke 16. The god of Mammon, or Mammon. This word is in the Bible 4 times. It's 3 times actually in this passage. And 1 time in a parallel passage in Matthew. And we'll talk about what it means. All right? So Luke 16. Okay. It says here in verse 1. He also said to the disciples, there was a rich man who had a manager, and charges were brought to him that this man was wasting his possessions. And so he called him and he said to him, what is this I hear about you? Turn in the account of your management, for you can no longer be manager. And the manager said to himself, oh, what shall I do? Since my master is taking the management away from me. Oh, I'm not strong enough to dig, and I'm too ashamed to beg. I have decided what to do, so that when I'm removed from management, people may receive me into their houses. So summoning his master's debtors one by one, he said to the first, how much do you owe my master? He said, 100 measures of oil. He said to him, okay, take your bill, sit down, and quickly write 50. And then he said to another, how much do you owe? He said, 100 measures of wheat. And he said to him, okay, take your bill and write 80. The master commended the dishonest manager for his shrewdness. And here's the important part. For the sons of this world are more shrewd in dealing with their own generation than the sons of light. And I tell you, make friends for yourselves by means of unrighteous wealth, so that when it fails, they may receive you into eternal dwellings. In the King James Version, it says, make to yourselves friends of the mammon of unrighteousness, that when ye fail, they may receive you into everlasting habitations. Okay, and later on it says, if therefore ye have not been faithful in the unrighteous mammon, and then later on it says, ye cannot serve God and mammon. All right, so does anybody have an idea what mammon is now? Okay.
Yep.
You got it. It's wealth. It's wealth. It's the demon of wealth. Okay, and so here's this guy. He's going to lose his job. He's like, I can't beg, and I don't really want to work hard. I don't want to do hard labor. What am I going to do? Well, let me go find my master's, the people who owe my master money, and I'm going to reduce their accounts, their debts, and hopefully they'll be appreciative enough of me to welcome me into their home. And that basically that Hesed idea. Okay, I did this for you, you do this, kind of I owe you, right? Now, this is a weird parable, because it almost looks like Jesus is saying you need to be dishonest. You need to be a little bit deceitful about your wealth. You need to be... That's not what Jesus is saying here. He's saying something very important. I need for us to understand that with mammon, there is a demon that is involved here. And this demon is really very, very powerful. It's so powerful that you cannot serve both him and God. You have to choose. You have to make a decision. And with the wealth that you have, you got to understand, you got to ask yourself, with the wealth that I have, this demon of wealth, what am I doing with it? How am I interacting with this demon? How am I using it for the advancement of God's kingdom? Or am I bowing down to the wealth that God has given me? Okay? I believe in this world, with people without God, they know how to work their money. It says here they're shrewd. They're shrewd with their money versus the sons of light. Okay? They're intentional with their money. They work deals. They'll even do things that are dishonest to protect themselves from trouble that could come because of money. Okay? And Jesus is saying, look, if you want to protect yourself to go to heaven, if you want to get into heaven and protect yourself while you're here on this earth, you got to do something about that wealth demon. And that what you do with it really matters and what really counts in this life and in the life to come. Okay? We need to basically do a good job with the wealth God has given us. In fact, we need to do an excellent job of our finances. Honestly, before 2012, before Heather and I did Dave Ramsey, I was not doing an excellent job with the finances because I was in charge of the finances. And Heather can attest to it. You can talk to her later. I was not very good with the finances. In fact, I would allow it to dip into the red zone. Not on purpose, but just because I wasn't responsible. As a disciple, as a Christian. And when we did Dave Ramsey, and again, I praise God for Dave Ramsey, and a lot of people believe in him and whatever, but it really brought our finances to control. And we were able to kill off $6,000 in debt within 4 or 5 months. And now we have some debt still. But right now, I can honestly say we're in a much better spot than before 2012. And it's because I made a decision, and Heather and I made a decision to no longer bow down to this demon of wealth. Are you with me, brothers and sisters? All right, so let's keep reading. Look in verse 10. One who is faithful is in a very little One who is faithful in a very little is also faithful in much. And one who is dishonest in a very little is also dishonest in much. If then you have not been faithful in the unrighteous wealth, who will entrust you to the true riches? And if you've not been faithful in that which is another's, who will give you that which is your own? No servant can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to the one, despise the other. You cannot serve both God and mammon. Okay, this is a tough thing. All right, this is really tough to do. You know why? Because we all have a full-time job. A lot of us have full-time jobs. Raise your hand if you have a full-time job. Okay? Okay, good. I have a full-time job. My time is fully devoted to my job. We have to work. Okay? We have to make money. It's just part of our culture. It's part of our lives. We have to interact with mammon every day. Okay? We have to stay alive. We have to provide for our families. And again, I'm not saying you need to quit your full-time jobs. But what I'm saying is, again, looking at your wealth, your possessions, your money, how are you using it for God and His kingdom? Come on, bro. All right? We read the scriptures about idolatry, right? We studied out earlier. Why would we cry out to a God that cannot save? That doesn't even make sense to us, right? Why would we worship that as something made out of wood and stone or paper? You know, why would we sacrifice our families to Molech? Or we think that's just preposterous, right? And yet with mammon, it's a different story, don't we? If we're really all about wealth and we're focused on our possessions, and I believe there are a lot of people in this world who sacrifice their time with their children. They sacrifice their families to a false god, the false god of mammon. Who does that? You know, can you imagine throwing your children to Molech? And yet so many people in America sacrifice their families and children for the god of mammon. And we cannot get sucked into that. You can even just, again, I'm not going to go into any politics, but just look at our presidential candidates. You could already tell where mammon is all over that. And it's a very powerful thing and a scary thing. I think it's more scary than anything. We got to pray. I don't know about you. I mean, I know some of you guys are praying for the decision coming up, so that's great. We need to pray for the decision that's coming up in November. All right, so let's close out. I'm running out of time, so let's go quick. How do we respond to this necessary evil? You have to be radical about it. You know that Dave Ramsey class? That's radical. You have to let people in on your wealth, into your home. You need to share your possessions with people. You need to be generous with your food. You need to give and give wholeheartedly, kind of like what Roland was saying. Because I believe that's what's going to bring us into eternal dwellings. You got to deal with it radically. You got to let people in and look at your budget. You need another set of eyes on your wealth. All right, you need to be responsible. We need to be responsible with our finances, with our wealth and our possessions. All right? Some of our teenagers probably are looking at this lesson and they're like, well, this doesn't really apply to me because I don't have a job, number one, I don't make money. But you know what? It does apply because you've got wealthy possessions. And the biggest wealthy possession you have is in your phone. It's your phone. And you got to ask yourself, how are you using this phone for the glory of God? How are you allowing social media, the god of social media, the false god of social media, to control your life? Are you one of those people that just need to keep checking your phone? Oh, I got to keep checking it. Okay? No, you can put your phone down for more than 15 minutes. Amen. In fact, you can put your phone down when you're with another human being. Put that phone down. Because that's a wealthy thing in your hand. That's a wealthy piece of technology. You know, when you're in the car and you get into a car with another human being, put your phone on vibrate or silence. Think of it like the movie theaters, right? When you're in the movie theaters, you got to put it away. Same thing. You got to use your technology for God's glory. Amen? Amen. Be responsible. Clement of Alexandria. It's a long thing, but he said, gather for yourself an unarmed, unwarlike, bloodless, peaceful, and stainless army of godly old men, orphans dear to God, widows armed with meekness, and men adorned with love. Obtain with your money such guards for your body and soul. All these warriors and guards are trustworthy. None of them is idle. None is useless. Some of them can attain your pardon from God. Others can comfort you when sick. And still others can weep and groan in sympathy for you to the Lord. He's saying, use your wealth for the less fortunate. Use your wealth for people who are actually going to give back to you. Use your wealth and possessions for people who are going to take care of you. I know when I'm old and gray, I want people surrounding me who love me and care about me. Not about my wealth, possessions, but they care about me as a human being. Give your money to them. Give your possessions to them. Give your time and energy to them, because they're going to protect you. They're going to protect you to go into heaven. Here's another one, my favorite one. If you are more fortunate than others, it is better to build a longer table than a taller fence. I love this one. That longer table is for people to sit in. And you feed them. And you say, I love you. I care about you. Take care of me. Take care of other people. All right, and the last response is rejoice. Be a happy, cheerful giver. When you give, just be happy. Be joyful. Be thankful. Don't worry. Yes, you might be giving a lot of your time and energy and money to people, but don't worry about it. God's going to take care of you. You know, I remember the movie, I just watched this movie, Bridge of Spies with Tom Hanks. Great movie, and in the movie there's a running thread throughout the film where the Russian spy was caught by the Americans, and the Russian spy is a really neat guy. He's just very calm, very peaceful. And he's not freaking out. He's arrested, he's got handcuffs, he's in prison, but he's just like very calm. And so Tom Hanks is his lawyer, and Tom Hanks is throughout the movie asking him the question, are you worried? Aren't you worried that you're going to probably get death row or whatever? I don't know. Aren't you worried? Aren't you? Every time Tom Hanks asks the question, are you worried? He says, is it going to help me? Is it going to help me? And I say this because when you're a cheerful giver, you're not worried about anything. You're just generous with what God has given you. Amen? So let's be radical, let's be responsible, and let's rejoice with the wealth that God has given us. Thank you so much.